Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. Of course, we just heard from lead investigative journalist Mark Besant, of course, working at CNC3 and Guardian Media Limited in Trinidad and Tobago. Alex, at this point in time, I'm going to bring you into the discussion just to hear your thoughts on, what Mark had to say. Of course, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has gotten involved. This matter involving David John Williams is now under investigation.
Yeah, it's such an interesting story. I think what having that talk with Mark really brought to light was that this story is bigger than David John Williams and Trinidad and Tobago, and dare I say CONCACAF. This is a bigger story. I think we're talking about something else. Because when we talk about the ousted President William Wallace and his team and what the decisions they're facing now, it seems that they're between a rock and a hard place. And this may be a story about having to speak some truth to power, and it doesn't get more powerful than FIFA.
And Alex, it's so sad that the sport of football, is the one that suffers, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, football for sure, young footballers, and we know that Trinidad and Tobago, I know we're going to be soon speaking to one of the most capped players, or the most capped player of Trinidad and Tobago. It's a twin island republic that produces world-class footballers, an extraordinary amount of them. It's a great avenue for youngsters of Trinidad and Tobago to find their feet, find their wealth, find a way to make a living. And of course, it's the beautiful game. It's the game that the region loves. So it's not just going to impact Trinidad and Tobago, it impacts the whole region.
Definitely. Well, we are hours away from the start of FIFA's 70th Congress, scheduled this year as an online event from Zurich, Switzerland. Item 4 on the agenda deals with the suspension of members, and there's every reason to believe that the name Trinidad and Tobago will come up for discussion at this point in the meeting. Of course, the ousted leadership of the TTFA, led by William Wallace, has hauled FIFA before the High Court in TNT, seeking to remove the normalization committee installed by FIFA to run the day-to-day activities of the TTFA. FIFA had given the TTFA an ultimatum: withdraw that matter from the TNT High Court and take it to the Court of Arbitration for Sport before September 16 or face suspension. The case remains before the High Court in TNT, and this is why there's every reason to expect TNT to be kicked to the curb by FIFA. Well, joining us to discuss this eventuality and the ramifications is TNT's most capped player, Angus Eve. Angus, welcome.
Hi, Mariah. Thanks for having me for you and your viewers around the Caribbean.
I didn't understand that.
Angus, it's a pleasure to have you. And of course, at this point in time, it's sad that we have to discuss what's happening in Trinidad and Tobago at this point in time. I know every time we have you on the show, of course, we discuss, we celebrate football and, of course, your success as a coach. Talk to me about what's happening and, of course, tomorrow's FIFA meeting. What happens to Trinidad and Tobago football?
Well, it would be devastating for us as a footballing community, as you rightly said in the preamble before I'm coming on, that we have provided a lot of champion players and teams and a lot of avenues for players to get out. Trinidad is very rich in football in history. You know, we nearly qualified in 1973. We know how that went in 1989, and then eventually qualifying. We are the first Caribbean country to play at any type of World Cup when we qualified in 1991. So there's a rich footballing history here. We and Jamaica have the most Caribbean Cup titles. I know that doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, a lot of footballing history, and it will be devastating to the young people not to have the opportunity to ply their trade and to have the opportunity to play international football.
Angus, since the developments with TTFA, you've been very vocal, of course, trying to lobby in to try to at least get the coaches paid and all these different things. Have you met with your team and just the people who have stood by you, being very outspoken about what happens if tomorrow the worst outcome unfolds?
Well, the coaches had their own issues going on. We haven't been paid since January. And we came in with the belief that we're coming in to help Trinidad football, We came in under the new regime. William Wallace and Keith Lecloinde, and they told us that they didn't have any money. We came in because we wanted to see Trinidad and Tobago football come back to the heights that it should be, and we think that it belongs. So when they said that they didn't have any money and stuff like that, we were welcome to come in, and we basically operated under stipends. And in March, when the COVID hit and then normalization came, we were left out. But at that time, the TTFA couldn't even pay the 2-month salaries because they were waiting on the FIFA's money, which is very surprising now that they're trying to oust FIFA because they couldn't pay us unless they had FIFA funding. So, those are the type of things that we've been dealing with.
Angus, so let's just say tomorrow, worst case scenario, and it's so sad that we have to probe into this and look at what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow this occurs. What happens to Trinidad and Tobago football? What happens to your job? Where do you go from here?
Well, the thing about us, and I don't want to just focus on the coaches or where do I go from here. Really, I want to look at it more holistically. You saw when we qualified for the World Cup in 2006, and even when we didn't qualify in 1989, there was euphoria, there was community building at a time when we have so much racial tension and political tension and the COVID, it would have been a welcome distraction. Alex was just a part of the CPL that was just held here, and she know the relief and the adulation that the people had, although they couldn't be there physically. So sport is a very uplifting thing, and when you don't have the opportunity to play a sport, which is the possibility that may happen here, for stuff that is off the field, it is devastating in the time where kids can't be in school. So we look forward to these opportunity to have that mental release, or crime and everything is up in COVID, and those sort of activities can bring a sense of relief.
Alex, you wanted to come in?
Yes, I did. Angus, I can imagine just how bitter this is, a pill to swallow. And like you said, sport is usually, such a sense of social relief. The story is so multi-layered and complicated at this stage. In an ideal world for Angus Eve, how could TTFA proceed?
I think the court matter, I believe it was to draw out the ills that the last regime would have probably done in the new regime's eyes. But we made that mandate. We voted him out. We voted the last regime out. And it seems like they're still in political mood. They're still in campaigning mood. Right. They won the election. People voted them out. So people agreed with them. And now they're still in election mode. I heard an interview from key members this morning saying, if it goes to the Privy Council, then they won't go further. They're just fighting it here. Then why are you fighting it here? Is it you're fighting for us to get banned? Then if you believe in your cause, and if you believe, go to the ends of the earth and fight. We supported them initially, everyone, because we didn't like how it happened with FIFA. That's the honest truth. And if it was going to cast where it was to be dealt with, then they had the support of the people. They never came back to the membership, and they made a decision of themselves to bring it into civil court. They said that it was looking like it was going to be biased, them going into cast, and they brought it to civil court. And I think that is where they have been losing the support, because members now understand what are the ramifications of them taking it to civil court.
Interesting. And do you understand their position about not wanting to go to CAS, feeling that perhaps FIFA might have a bit more of an influence in that court?
Well, we could say the same about them having more influence in the local courts.
True.
Angus, my question is this. Why does it appear from where I am that the country's football is effectively being held hostage by a group? I don't want to call them a band, because a band may sound pejorative, and I don't want to pour oil on an already raging fire. So let's just call them a group. The country's football is being held hostage by a group, and so many people who are critical to football in the country are standing on the sidelines, watching it play out, watching TNT slide to an inevitable ban, to an inevitable suspension, and not saying anything? Am I reading it wrong for interpreting it that way from where I am?
No, you're not reading it wrong, George, and simply because if you remember, a couple of years ago, I was on your show, and I was remonstrating after the fact that David John Williams didn't want to send the under-23 teams to the Olympics. And I was the only voice speaking back then. And now revelations are coming out that there may be untoward things, reason why the team wasn't sent to the Olympics at that point in time. Now, we are in a similar place. You see, George, what happened in the early part, everybody supported them because we felt that they just came in and it was a bit unjust what had happened to them. And then COVID hit, and then people losing jobs is a very depressing time in Trinidad, to be honest. A lot of people losing jobs and so on thing. And what has happened is that only the people who are making, we are not together in the colleges league is at one place, the pro league is one place, the super league, the referees association, and there's a lot of, want of a better term, there's a lot of gangs in Trinidad football. And until the gangs leaders can come together, at my community just the other day, the gang leaders came together, fellas who have no set of education at all, and they realized for the better good of our community, they had to come together. If the gangs don't come together in TTFA, then this is the continuing downward spiral that we will continue to go to.
So even as you describe TNT's football as one big garrison split into several gangs, yes?
Yeah.
When, as I expect, the ban happens on Friday at that online conference centered in Zurich, who will be to blame for TTFA being told to sit 2 years out of world football until it can sort itself out? Who will be blamed for that?
All of us who are in football will be held to accountability, because we as coaches, we should speak out a little bit more. A lot of people are afraid that they would lose the opportunity to coach anymore or to have an opportunity. But the Bible said if a good man sees something is going wrong, he needs to speak out about it. And if I have to be, just as I said before in one of the interviews, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, they didn't sacrifice the masses for themselves. They sacrificed themselves for the masses. And we've seen a number of people sacrificing the masses for themselves. It is high time that we come together. It is high time. I thought that the Minister of Sport, she put a token effort forward. I think it should have been a lot more stronger because the national football is all of our thing. It is all of our thing. And when the youths in the communities, as you know, George, Alex, you were talking about the cricket and the guys who are coming from Laventille and Mova and these type of areas. It's the same thing for the football. The kids who are going to suffer is the kids from the ghetto. When the kids from the ghetto is suffering, then they have to find other means to make a living. You know, hopefully not. But just the other day, a footballer died, and his coach said, if he was in football, he wouldn't have died because, and he actually wasn't in any gang-related events, but if we had training, he wouldn't have been on that block at that particular time.
Someone will be toasting a Pyrrhic victory with a bottle of water and not champagne. I can't believe that I'm actually a part of something that is talking about TNT being kicked out of world football. It's still unreal to me, and I've been front and center of it. Angus Eve will be talking again, I am sure. Yeah. So I don't know, you know, your second and third career, you better sharpen up those accounting skills or whatever it is you have to do, because you're going to need a job for the next 2 or so years, my friend.
Yeah, it looks like it. It's unfortunate, George, but I am good in media.
I know this.
Hopefully you guys will bring me back over to Jamaica.
Absolutely so, my friend. Yeah, Alex can give you some work as well. Thank you, Angus. We'll be talking.
Okay.
All the best. Stay where you are, Alex. We're going to talk some cricket after this break, Miss Jordan. So, yeah, we can indulge. Back with more on the SportsMax Zone.